Hello everybody. This is a VR. It's the hashtag Deck Crush. It's a VR to Dawn Michelle Tarot, Lisa Papez, Marlene Theresa and Dani Mystic. And the questions were, the first one was the Fling. I'll put all the questions in the description box. It's a deck with which you had a short period of old times. Now for me, I picked the Chromatic Faiths Tarot. I had my house on the market last year, probably June last year, and I packed all my tarot decks away and there was only two that I left out, and this was one and there was another one which you'll see soon. And I worked with this deck, and to be honest, it was the real first time where I've really worked with tarot to the degree that I have, and really understood that there's many layers that you can get to readings, which I never really understood. So that's what really got me sort of diving deep, because I just used to read intuitively but not with tarot decks per se. I still use the guidebook, but this is the Chromatic Faiths Tarot. You can see that it's well used, well worn. I really like the guidebook. I do read via the guidebook. The deck itself is beautiful. I really like the lightweight cards. The only negative thing that I've got this deck is it's itsy bitsy tiny righty. Sorry for bumping the camera. You know, like I used to what is that? You know, like, especially if you're doing lives or quick readings such as myself and you don't really know all the cards' meanings and you have to look them up. Sometimes that can get a little bit confusing, but this was a lovely deck. As I said, the booklet and whatever. I'll probably come back to utilising this deck again, but currently it's sort of sitting in the back of my cupboard. This was made with a variety of artists, and I actually bought this from Kickstarter, so this is pretty much one of the early ones that I bought from Kickstarter. So that's the first deck. The next question was Puppy Love, a deck with which you were infatuated with but couldn't make a long-term commitment. And this deck was actually this one. And I bought this, a few years back, and I was really infatuated. I still am. Like, I would really love to look into this. And I remember getting the book and reading and finding out the meanings of a couple cards. And I remember going through the Pixie Astounding Lenormand deck, and I remember it said ambulance, and then that day I had to actually ring an ambulance. But I would really love to work with this deck a bit more, but yeah, I sort of was so infatuated with it that I didn't really dive deeper with learning more about it, and I really should make a long-term commitment with this deck. The next question for the VR was Friends with Benefits, a deck you care about but sometimes are extremely passionate for. And this is sort of a different deck. This is more about words, mass market, the power of love, activation cards. But this deck here, oh my gosh, during the time when I was using it a lot, and I mean a lot, like you can just see how worn the edging is, it really taught me about judgment and discernment. It really has given me so many lessons here. Like, I'm a big one with guidebooks, as I said. I read with guidebooks and then I read intuitively, but I need a really good guidebook. And James Van Praagh, I've got so much respect for this man being a medium. He's just, the amount of teaching that he has provided is amazing. But this deck here was so good to me, learning those two big lessons. I love utilising this deck. I love, just doing a one card pull, maybe adding it to readings. But I just love it. It looks so simple, but yet there's so many layers to this deck. So this is my definitely a Friends with Benefits, definitely. So I love this deck. So I've just recently got one of his other word decks. Now the Love at First Sight deck. I've got to make sure I'm doing these in order. Yes, I am. Okay. And you know what? I only recently found out what VR actually meant by watching all your videos. Okay. This is my Love at First Sight deck. It's a deck that I truly loved from the start. The moment that I got it and opened it, I just thought, wow. And being really new to Kickstarter, I'm not buying any Kickstarters this year, but being very new to Kickstarter, like, it was a big confidence thing for me to buy something and from a website that I hadn't heard of before. But this deck is honestly so beautiful. I was blown away by the imagery. It's just lovely. The cardstock is beautiful. It's like a satin matte colour. I love this deck. Whenever I work with it or read with it, I just really love the messages that I get with it. It's just beautiful. There's many different layers and aspects of this deck. I actually think the creator of this deck is doing a new one I've seen on Instagram, so which will be very interesting. But I really adore this deck. I just love it. And I think, to be honest, I think this would have to be one of my first animal decks. And I'm only thinking about it being an animal deck now. Prior to this, I know there's animals on it, but normally, you think of animals as spirit animals and whatnot and get really deep, but yeah, I didn't read in that way, so, which is interesting, just looking at it out loud now. So that's why I like these VRs, because it makes me look at my decks in a way that I probably haven't utilised my imagination with, but I just really love this deck. It's beautiful. That's my definitely Love at First Sight deck. Now the next one is the One Night Stand deck, a deck you tried but moved on from almost immediately. Sometimes you still think about this deck. Now this deck is quite interesting. I did move on from this deck. This deck did move on from my collection. I actually donated it to the local spiritualist church along with the booklet. But it's come back into my collection because I bought some things on Facebook and it was part of this deck. I have read with this just recently again. At the time, I think because I was reading quite intuitively, I found, and it seems weird, but I found the imagery quite dark, and I don't mean dark as in negative dark. I just meant dark as in what I was used to reading. I think I was reading a lot of Colette Baron Reid images at the time, and they were quite bright, and I just found this quite dark for me, and I don't think I was used to the computerized imagery, so that's why this deck sort of left my collection. And it's come back into it. I have been utilizing it for doing some readings. So that's the Angel Fairy Tarot cards. Now the next deck that we have is We're on a Break, a deck you've separated from. Oh, that was that deck actually. Oh, what have I done? Have I done this right? Oh, yes, I have. The deck that I've actually separated from is obviously not here because I've given it away. That deck was the Exquisite Familiars. I bought that as a Kickstarter, but it wasn't what I would call a reading deck. It was more like a table book deck, and I'll put some pictures up here while I talk. It was more like a table book deck. Quite fun, quite quirky, but definitely didn't fit into what I sort of want from a deck, so that's why it left my collection. Beautifully done though, beautifully. Okay, and we've got Marriage Material, a deck that has proven its value to you. Now, I'm sorry, but I've done two decks. One that has recently come into my collection. It was just a $12 deck, but this deck here, my goodness, the readings that I'm getting from it is beautiful. You don't need the guidebook. As I said, I'm a big one that reads from the guidebook and get what I get intuitively, but the cards themselves have the meaning. With this deck here, I actually really found it very helpful with the court cards. I'll try and find a court card. So you can see, when I was about to see here, the court card, the Page of Wands, young woman to 25. So I just found that really helpful for me, just starting to incorporate that into my readings. King of Swords, man over 25. Because many years ago when I was 19, I had a reading, and it still sticks with me with this reading with the tarot reader, and she knew the star sign, she knew what the person was looking like, and obviously she was utilizing the court cards and whatnot. So this deck has been really good for me, just really embracing and learning about the court cards for the deck. But I really wanted to also add in this deck as well, and you can see this one is well used, and if you've watched my collection deck, you'd see that I have also a few of these in plastic because I give this deck as gifts. Like you can tell it's a well-worn deck. This deck here, because I do a lot of mediumship readings, this deck I just can't put into words. It's another James Van Prague deck, but it's just been so helpful for me to connect in a mediumship way and to offer a reading, but also to close a reading, in a way that's done in a soft and gentle manner, to order, just to bring a reading to a close. It's done in such a way that the person feels that they've received the reading as a full, like it doesn't leave any unanswered questions, and it lets them know that the reading's complete. And these cards are just beautiful and soft and gentle and loving and just lovely. So these two decks, I couldn't choose which one because they're just so very different, but that's the Marriage Proposal deck. And finally, the Happily Ever After, my true love in a deck. And I really have to say, it is, funnily enough, it is this one, the Art of Adventure Tarot. And this was one of the two decks that I had kept out and utilized when my home was on the market. And maybe it was, maybe because it was being forced to utilize a deck day in, day out, and at night. And I do a lot of readings on TikTok. I probably do about I don't know, between 30 to 70 readings a week. And I actually only learnt what a LWB was about 2 weeks ago, the little white book. And I didn't really think that I would be able to read with a deck that's just done in such a simplistic manner with the guidebook, but I think this really helped me with my readings and getting so much depth from them intuitively. But I just love this deck, you know, it's just beautiful. You can see the gilding there with the blue. It's just bright. I like bright decks. You know, I've been watching a few videos and a lot of them are black and white, but I just love this deck. I love the size of it, the ease of it shuffling. So yeah, I love this deck so much that I was going to buy another copy, and I thought, no, don't do that, you know, don't do that. So that's my VR. I'll put all the links to everybody that's done the videos that I've come across, and I hope that you do it too, because I really like to hear and learn from others. But I think this is my second VR, so nice to meet you all.